Welcome to this new episode, brought to you by Vault of 15, your number one top 15 list maker. Today we'll uncover the shocking lies and cover-ups that governments around the world told their people, and the world believed them. From secret experiments and hidden wars to propaganda that changed history, these are the 15 government cover-ups that fooled millions. Let's begin. Number 15. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, 2003. In the aftermath of September 9th, the U.S. and its allies claimed that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction, nuclear, biological, and chemical. These allegations became the central justification for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The public was shown satellite images, intelligence briefings, and even dramatic speeches at the United Nations, all painting Iraq as a looming threat to global security. Fear spread quickly, and the world braced for catastrophe if action was not taken. But after the invasion, exhaustive searches found no such weapons. Investigations later revealed that much of the evidence had been cherry-picked, exaggerated, or outright wrong. Critics argued that the administration knew the intelligence was weak, but pressed forward to justify war for political and strategic reasons. The cost of this lie was devastating. Hundreds of thousands of deaths, regional instability, in a war that dragged on for years. For many, the weapons of mass destruction scandal became a lasting symbol of how governments can manipulate fear to rally public support. Number 14. The Watergate Scandal, 1972 to 1974. When a group of men was caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex, President Richard Nixon's administration immediately denied involvement. The burglary seemed like a strange, isolated crime at first, but as journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein dug deeper, evidence began to link the burglars to the White House itself. For months, Nixon publicly declared he had no knowledge of the break-in or the cover-up. Yet behind closed doors, tapes revealed he was deeply involved in obstructing the investigation. The administration paid hush money, pressured the FBI, and tried to silence those who threatened to expose the truth. When the secret recordings became public, the evidence was undeniable. Nixon's own voice implicated him in the conspiracy. Facing impeachment and certain removal from office, Nixon resigned in 1974, the first U.S. president to do so. The scandal destroyed public trust in government, proving that even the highest office in the land could be consumed by lies and corruption. Number 13. The Pentagon Papers. Vietnam War Deception, 1960s to 1970s. For years, U.S. officials assured the public that the Vietnam War was progressing well, insisting that victory was near. Behind the scenes, however, internal reports painted a grim reality. The war was unwinnable, and leaders knew it. In 1971, Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers. Thousands of classified documents showing that multiple administrations had misled Congress and the American people about the war. The papers revealed lies about military successes, hidden bombing campaigns in Laos and Cambodia, and a deliberate effort to conceal the true costs of the conflict. When the New York Times began publishing the documents, the government tried to suppress them, citing national security. But the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the press, allowing the truth to come out. The revelations shattered trust in the government and fueled the anti-war movement. The Pentagon Papers stand as one of the most damning examples of deception in modern history. Number 12. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment, 1932 to 1972. For 40 years, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted one of the most shameful medical experiments in history. Hundreds of African-American men with syphilis were recruited in Tuskegee, Alabama, under the guise of receiving free health care. In reality, they were denied treatment so scientists could study the natural progression of the disease. Even after penicillin became a proven cure in the 1940s, the men were deliberately left untreated. They were lied to about their condition, told they had bad blood, and subjected to painful, unnecessary tests. The experiment continued until 1972, when it was finally exposed by a whistleblower and reported in the national press. The scandal caused public outrage, leading to congressional hearings and new regulations on medical research ethics. But the damage had already been done. Dozens of men died, their families were infected, and an entire community's trust in healthcare was shattered. Tuskegee remains a haunting reminder of what happens when governments exploit their citizens under a cloak of lies. Number 11. The Iran-Contra Affair, 1980s. In the 1980s, U.S. officials faced two major problems: American hostages held in Lebanon and a congressional ban on funding Nicaraguan rebels known as the Contras. The Reagan administration publicly denied making deals with Iran or secretly funding foreign wars. Yet behind the scenes, a clandestine operation was underway. Weapons were secretly sold to Iran, a country under embargo, and the profits were funneled to the Contras, directly violating U.S. law. For years, the administration denied any wrongdoing, even as rumors swirled. The truth came out in 1986, sparking one of the biggest political scandals of the decade. Investigations revealed a tangled web of secret deals, shredded documents, and high-level officials caught in lies. While some participants were convicted, most sentences were later overturned or pardoned. The Iran-Contra affair proved that even when laws are clear, governments can bend or break them in the shadows and then lie to the public about it. Number 10. The Bay of Tonkin Incident, 1964. In August 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson told the American people that U.S. Navy ships had been attacked twice by North Vietnamese patrol boats in the Gulf of Tonkin. The incident was presented as unprovoked aggression, a clear act of war. Johnson assured the nation that the U.S. must respond with force. Congress quickly passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, giving the president sweeping authority to escalate the Vietnam War. For years, this resolution justified massive troop deployments and bombings across Southeast Asia. But the truth was far more complicated. Declassified documents and later investigations revealed that the second attack never happened. Radar blips, false reports, and confusion had been spun into a deliberate narrative to push America deeper into war. Top officials knew the story was shaky, but repeated it anyway to secure public support. The consequences were catastrophic. Millions of Vietnamese and more than 58,000 American soldiers would die in a war fueled by a falsehood. The Bay of Tonkin Incident became one of the most infamous examples of a government manufacturing a crisis to justify conflict. It wasn't just a lie, it was the spark that ignited years of bloodshed. Number 9. COINTELPRO, the FBI's secret war, 1956 to 1971. The FBI long claimed it existed to protect American citizens and uphold the law. But behind closed doors, it ran COINTELPRO, a covert program designed to infiltrate, discredit, and destroy political organizations deemed subversive. Targets included civil rights leaders, anti-war groups, and activists demanding change. For years, officials denied any wrongdoing, dismissing allegations of illegal surveillance or sabotage. That changed in 1971 when a group of activists broke into an FBI office in Pennsylvania and stole documents. The papers exposed the shocking truth. The FBI had wiretapped Martin Luther King Jr., sent him anonymous threats urging him to commit suicide, and tried to pit activists against each other through lies and forgeries. The government had systematically spied on its own citizens, trampling constitutional rights while publicly denying it. COINTELPRO's exposure led to public outrage and congressional investigations. But for those targeted, the damage was irreversible. Reputations were ruined, movements fractured, and trust in government shattered. What was once dismissed as paranoia turned out to be fact. The government was watching, and it was willing to lie to keep it hidden. Number 8. MKUltra, the CIA's mind control experiments, 1950s to 1960s. It sounds like science fiction, a secret government project testing drugs and psychological torture to control human behavior. For decades, the CIA flatly denied the existence of such a program. But in reality, MKUltra was one of the most disturbing cover-ups in U.S. history. Launched in the 1950s at the height of Cold War paranoia, MKUltra sought to discover whether drugs like LSD could be weaponized for mind control, interrogation, or even assassinations. Unsuspecting citizens, including prisoners, psychiatric patients, and even ordinary people lured into brothels, were dosed without consent. Some suffered mental breakdowns, long-term trauma, or death. The CIA destroyed most MKUltra files in 1973, ensuring much of the truth would never be known. But enough documents survived, and congressional hearings in the 1970s confirmed what many had suspected. The government had experimented on its own people while denying it all along. The revelations shocked the world. MKUltra remains a chilling reminder of how far governments can go when operating in secrecy, and how easily denials can mask horrors unfolding in the shadows. For decades, the victims were dismissed as delusional until the truth finally came out. Number 7. The Chernobyl Disaster Cover-Up, 1986. On April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear plant exploded, sending radioactive clouds into the sky. Yet Soviet officials downplayed the event, insisting it was under control. In nearby towns, residents went about their daily lives, unaware they were walking through invisible poison. Children played outside while radiation levels spiked. A May Day parade was held in Kiev, exposing thousands more. The Soviet government even refused to warn neighboring countries until radiation was detected in Sweden, forcing the truth into the open. By then, countless lives had been irreversibly changed. Firefighters and plant workers absorbed lethal doses trying to contain the disaster, while local citizens were exposed to long-term health risks. The cover-up was as dangerous as the explosion itself. When details finally emerged, the world learned how Soviet secrecy worsened the tragedy. It wasn't just a reactor that failed. It was a government's refusal to admit the scale of disaster. The lies eroded global trust in Soviet leadership, and for many, Chernobyl became a symbol of the deadly cost of cover-ups. Number 6. Cigarettes are safe, mid-20th century. For much of the 20th century, governments and tobacco companies insisted smoking posed no health risks. Glossy ads featured doctors endorsing cigarettes, and government officials turned a blind eye to growing evidence of cancer and heart disease. Even as internal studies revealed smoking's dangers, the industry launched a massive disinformation campaign. Scientists were paid to cast doubt, regulators stalled, and the public was reassured that smoking was harmless, even sophisticated. It wasn't until the 1960s that the U.S. Surgeon General officially declared smoking harmful. By then, millions were addicted, and countless lives had been lost to preventable illness. Documents later revealed that both governments and corporations knew the truth earlier than they admitted, but chose profit and image over public health. The lie lasted decades, and its effects are still felt today. Smoking-related diseases continue to claim lives worldwide, a grim legacy of one of history's deadliest cover-ups. Number 5. NSA mass surveillance denials, 2001 to 2013. For years after 9/11, U.S. officials assured the public that government surveillance was tightly focused on terrorists, not ordinary citizens. Leaders from the National Security Agency, the FBI, and even the Director of National Intelligence swore before Congress that mass data collection on Americans simply did not exist. Then in 2013, whistleblower Edward Snowden released thousands of classified documents that proved otherwise. The NSA had been secretly collecting phone records, emails, and internet activity from millions of people worldwide, including American citizens. Entire tech companies were forced to cooperate in silence, while the government publicly denied it all. The revelations caused global outrage. Citizens realized their private communications were never truly private. Allies discovered they too had been spied on. Trust in government statements collapsed overnight. The scandal exposed not only the scale of surveillance, but the depth of official deception. For years, what sounded like a paranoid conspiracy theory turned out to be cold, hard fact. Number 4, the downplaying of Agent Orange in Vietnam, 1960s to 1970s. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military sprayed millions of gallons of Agent Orange, a chemical defoliant, to strip away jungle cover. Soldiers and civilians alike were told the substance was harmless, just a tool to clear vegetation. For years, officials denied that it posed any long-term health risks, but the truth was horrifying. Agent Orange contained dioxin, one of the most toxic chemicals known to man. Veterans exposed to it suffered cancers, birth defects in their children, and severe illnesses. Vietnamese civilians experienced generational health damage, with birth defects and diseases continuing decades later. For years, the U.S. government denied responsibility, dismissing claims as unproven or exaggerated. Veterans who complained of mysterious illnesses were often ignored. Only after relentless advocacy and overwhelming medical evidence did the truth break through. By then, it was too late. The damage had already been done, both to those who served and to entire Vietnamese communities. The Agent Orange cover-up remains one of the most tragic examples of a government hiding the deadly cost of war from both its soldiers and its citizens. We are now moving on to the top 3 of the list. If you have made it this far, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to Vault of 15. Number 3. Blood diamonds in the Sierra Leone conflict, 1990s. During the brutal civil war in Sierra Leone, diamonds mined in conflict zones were sold on the global market to finance armed groups. Governments and diamond companies downplayed their role, insisting the gems were legitimate. The public was told little, and consumers bought diamonds unaware of the bloodshed behind the sparkle. Journalists and activists exposed the truth. Children forced into slave labor, villages destroyed, and entire regions destabilized, all fueled by the diamond trade. Governments that benefited from the flow of money turned a blind eye, allowing the industry to thrive while denying any connection to violence. It wasn't until global outrage forced reforms that the Kimberley process was introduced to certify diamonds as conflict-free. But the lie had already cost tens of thousands of lives. The blood diamond scandal proved that governments will sometimes cover up atrocities when profits glitter too brightly to ignore. Number 2. Operation Northwoods, 1962. In the early 1960s, as Cold War tensions with Cuba escalated, the U.S. military devised a shocking plan. Operation Northwoods proposed staging fake terrorist attacks, hijackings, bombings, even sinking boats of Cuban refugees, and blaming them on Fidel Castro. The idea was to manufacture public outrage and justify a U.S. invasion of Cuba. For decades, officials denied such plots ever existed. It wasn't until declassified documents surfaced in the 1990s that the full truth came to light. The plan had been signed by top generals and presented to the Secretary of Defense. President Kennedy ultimately rejected it, but the fact that it was even proposed shocked the world. Operation Northwoods revealed the lengths to which governments might go to manipulate public opinion. Though never carried out, it remains one of the most chilling examples of a government willing to sacrifice its own citizens' lives and then cover it all up. Number 1. Nazi Holocaust denial, 1940s. As the Nazis carried out mass exterminations in concentration camps, they told the world these were merely labor camps. Prisoners were starved, tortured, and gassed. Yet officials insisted they were being relocated for work. Propaganda films showed smiling workers and staged scenes of healthy living conditions, hiding the reality of genocide. Even as Allied forces liberated Europe, Nazi leaders continued the lie. They ordered the destruction of gas chambers, burned documents, and executed witnesses to erase evidence. But when soldiers opened the gates of Auschwitz, Dachau, and Treblinka, the truth could no longer be hidden. Mountains of bodies, emaciated survivors, and abandoned facilities revealed the scale of horror. The Nazi cover-up failed, but its legacy endures as a warning of how propaganda and denial can conceal atrocities in plain sight, millions had already perished before the world saw the truth. The Holocaust remains the most devastating example of a government cover-up, a crime against humanity hidden under layers of lies until it was too late. We hope you found this episode eye-opening. History shows us that lies once told can shape nations and alter lives forever. The truth has a way of surfacing, but often at a terrible cost. Stay curious, stay questioning, and never forget that truth is in the list. Thank you for watching Vault of 15.